Two big stories breaking tonight. The world reacts to the death of Fidel Castro. Plus, Hillary Clinton's campaign joins in the effort to challenge the results of the presidential election. The election she lost decisively to Donald Trump. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. We are live throughout this hour covering both those breaking stories. Lawyers for Hillary Clinton now say they'll back an effort by Jill Stein to recount votes in Wisconsin and would also back recounts in two other critical states, Michigan and Pennsylvania. This despite Clinton singing a very different tune in the last debate when Donald Trump was asked about accepting election results. My opening statement on this very topic is just minutes away, and you won't want to miss it. But first, tonight, reaction is pouring into the death of Cuba's Fidel Castro. That reaction includes a very different take from President Obama, who offered his condolences to Castro's family and said that history would judge his impact on the world, and from President-elect Trump, who bluntly called Castro a brutal dictator. Here's Phil Keating with more reaction from Miami.
While Cuba is now in 9 days of state-imposed national mourning, here in Miami's Little Havana neighborhood, an absolutely unbridled celebration celebrating the death of Fidel Castro. Before sunrise, all day long, and now after sunset, thousands upon thousands of Cuban Americans have gathered here on the street in the heart of Miami's Cuban American population. Horns honking, cowbells ringing, pots and pans banging, Cuban flags flying, and smile after smile from ear to ear. President Obama released a statement, quote, "History will record and judge the enormous impact of this singular figure." Meanwhile, President-elect Donald Trump saying, quote, "While Cuba remains a totalitarian island, it is my hope that today marks a move toward a future in which the Cuban people finally live in the freedom they so richly deserve." An idea eagerly shared by all of these Cuban Americans as well as their parents for decades. This is more than 50 years they have been hoping Fidel Castro would just go away. Well, Fidel Castro is now dead. Over the next couple of days, he will be cremated in Cuba, and then on Wednesday, his ashes will be taken on a long march from Havana out to Santiago on the east, which of course is the birthplace of Fidel Castro's communist revolution so many years ago. Judge Jeanine.
Phil Keating, thanks so much. And more on the death of Fidel Castro and the future for Cuba and the United States throughout the hour. But first, my opening statement. Breaking tonight, Hillary Clinton's campaign announces it will join Green Party candidate Jill Stein's presidential vote recount in 3 pivotal states, even though Hillary Clinton has already conceded the election. This almost 3 weeks after the presidential election was called for Donald Trump. This after Democrats were horrified when then-candidate Donald Trump, in his last debate with Clinton, wouldn't commit to accepting the election results, simply saying he would look at it at the time and keep us all in suspense. And Hillary's response to that? Take a listen.
That's horrifying. That is not the way our democracy works. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them. And that is what must be expected of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is the nominee of one of our 2 major parties would take that kind of position.
Appalled. And she then doubled down on the outrage, causing some to actually protest.
He said something truly horrifying. He became the first person running for president, Republican or Democrat, who refused to say that he would respect the results of this election. That is a direct threat to our democracy.
And even though she couldn't come out election night and concede, and we now find out that President Obama told her to concede, the next day, when she does concede, says, we have to accept the results and look to the future. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. Okay, Hillary, now that Donald Trump is looking to help you heal, looking to help heal the nation, would it be fair to say, to use your own words, it's time to give Donald Trump his chance to lead? And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter, hashtag Judge Jeanine. And joining me now is New York Republican Congressman Chris Collins, who is the congressional liaison to the Trump transition team and also sits on the executive committee of that transition team. All right, first of all, Congressman Collins, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be with you, Jeanine.
Were you as shocked as I was today to hear that the Clinton campaign that said that we now have to get behind President-elect Donald Trump says, gee, we're going to join in this recount? What did you think of that?
Nothing surprises me about Hillary or Bill Clinton. Let's face it, it's always been Clinton family first. And, you know, this is a person who lied to the American public, lied to the Congress, much like her husband did. And so to lie on a debate stage and to try to turn that debate question, which we all have to realize they never asked her that question. Her response spoke for itself. But the liberal press didn't even ask her the same question they asked Donald Trump. But nothing surprises me about the Clintons, the liberal Democrats, who I can tell you, going back to D.C. after the election, boy, talk about eating crow, eyes down, shoulders shrugged, totally can't quite believe what hit them on election night. But there we went with Obama's legacy now, $20 trillion in debt in ISIS, and there won't be much other than that.
Okay, so here we are, Congressman, almost 3 weeks from the election, and you know, they say, okay, we've got these 3 pivotal states, and even though I said that we need to look forward and, you know, we need to accept Donald Trump as a president, I'm going to pull back on that one. But let's talk about those 3 pivotal states. My understanding is they're going to start with the recount in Wisconsin. All right, so they start with that recount, and what are we talking about? In Wisconsin, we're talking about a grand total of, I have it right here, 10 electoral votes. So let's assume that they're close and they're not in Wisconsin. That's not going to bring her up to what she needs. If they recount in Michigan, it's still not going to bring her up to what she needs. And in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is 70,000 votes ahead of Hillary Clinton. So why are they doing this? Aside from the fact that you can't believe anything they say, what is the motivation behind this?
Oh, I can tell you, they are ginning up the crowds, the protesters. They don't want to make America one again. I mean, I think this is a concerted effort in order to do everything but make America one again, which Donald Trump is going to do. He's taking and making the right statements. No, this is not about unifying our country. This is about the liberal Democrats and the Clintons doing what they can to make sure we don't unite behind Donald J. Trump, our president-elect. To me, it's disgusting. It's not surprising. But let's also remember, we're going to get past Wisconsin, and he's going to keep those 10 electoral college votes.
Of course.
At which point, even if, and it won't, even if something happened to Michigan and Pennsylvania, he's still our president. So, I mean, this is a fool's errand, but I think there's an edge to this, and it's not healthy for America. And I think other Democrats should get on board and call this out for what it is. It's the Clintons trying to keep our nation divided.
Well, you know, Jill Stein, the third-party candidate, I mean, she barely got, I think, what, 1% of the vote, and she wants a recall? I mean, why would someone who gets 1% of the vote want a recall? Why? Because she wants to collect some money. I mean, so it seems to me.
Well, and I'm just, again, where we're trying to unite our country, they're trying to make sure we stay divided, that Donald J. Trump doesn't come into office on the wave that he should be. I called it the Trump tsunami. But no, this is wrong on every level. President Obama should call them out for it. He should be saying, enough of this. It's time to unite our country. But then again, he's the most divisive president who has disserved our nation for 8 years. So don't expect him to say it either.
And do you think that one of the possible reasons or one of the strategy behind this ridiculous attempt is to kind of shake the confidence of the electors before they meet? I believe it's on the 18th of the Electoral College, or maybe to get some of the electors to break away?
I can't even conceive of that one. No, I think, Jeanine, it's as simple as the liberal Democrats wanting to keep our nation divided. When President-elect Trump said, "One America, make America one again," they're trying to fight against that, which is, democracy and our country, and they should be ashamed of themselves for it. They need to stop this nonsense, but they're not going to. I mean, the rules don't apply to them. You and I know this. The rules don't apply to these liberal Democrats.
And here's the bottom line, Congressman. Americans voted for Donald Trump far and away in terms of the Electoral College. I mean, there's no question about the fact that he will be our president on January 20th.
Thank heavens.
Thank you.
That's what we have to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
All right. Congressman Chris Collins, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Yes, always good to be with you, Jeanine.
All right. Joining me now is an attorney with Brown and Weintraub in Albany, New York, and outside counsel to the New York State GOP, Jeff Bewley. And I might add, Jeff, you were one of the key players in the 2000 election in Florida, actually counting those Chads in that historic recount. But, Jeff, when they talk about the recount from 2000 in Florida, there was a question of, I think, 500 votes that were in question in Florida, whereas in Pennsylvania, the difference between Clinton and Donald Trump is 70,000 votes. Are these people kidding?
Well, Judge, nice to see you again. Yes, you're correct. The spread in Pennsylvania is actually 1.2%, which is much higher of a margin than any recount in modern history has been able to overturn. And in fact, there's been a bit of a misnomer that's been perpetrated by the press that we are currently recounting the 3 closest states. But we're not recounting the 3 closest states. We're not even recounting the 2 closest states. What we are recounting the 3 states that Donald Trump with the smallest margins of victory. Michigan, he won by 0.3%. He won Wisconsin by 1%, and as we already said, Pennsylvania by 1.2%. But Hillary Clinton won New Hampshire by 0.4%. So New Hampshire is closer. So maybe we ought to have a recount of New Hampshire. That's right. So I think there's a good argument to be made that Jill Stein, Hillary Clinton, and the left only want to recount Donald Trump votes. Interesting. All right, and maybe we should have a recount in Nevada and Virginia and Minnesota and every state that she allegedly won, if that's the game we're playing. But Jeff, look, it's my understanding that you're going to be one of the people headed out to Wisconsin this week, that as soon as the filing fees are paid on Tuesdays, the recount starts on Thursday. Is that correct? That is possible, yes. Okay, and that, how is it done? Is the recount done by machine, or is it going to be something that's done by hand? No, it's going to be done by hand, and it's my understanding that in Wisconsin, they use different types of machines in different jurisdictions. There's basically 2 types of machines. The optical scan machine, which is where you go in and fill out an oval on a paper ballot, and those can then be rechecked manually. Then there are what they call DREs, which are like ATM-type machines. And some of those have paper receipts and some don't. So some of those can be checked against the results, and some will not be able to. All right. And so when this begins, is it, if some of it is a manual recount, is it possible that this goes beyond the 18th of December, which is when the Electoral colleges meet? Yeah, well, the Electoral College meets on the 19th, but more importantly, by federal law, all the states have to report their results to Congress by the 13th. So the 13th is actually the drop-dead date. So that makes it even tougher. And I can tell you, I was counting ballots in a New York State Senate race last week, and I was doing it for 3 days, and we only counted 2,400 votes in 3 days. So a lot of this is going to depend upon how much resources these local counties can put into this, but the more resources, the more cost to the county.
Right.
And then the higher the fee that will have to be paid.
And, you know, the shame of all this, Jeff, is looking at the numbers. It's not, you know, unless all 3 states are called for Hillary Clinton, the woman who said it's time to look to the future for Donald Trump and give him a chance, nothing's going to happen, and it's just a divisive tactic, correct?
Correct. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Clinton and Stein attorneys and volunteers, how they proceed at the counting tables in Wisconsin next week. If they are proceeding expeditiously, it's possible they're acting in good faith. If they're slowing things down and making a lot of objections, then it's going to be a question of what's their intent. Are they trying to prevent a state from being certified and trying to prevent that state from sending its electors to the Electoral College?
Exactly. All right. Jeff Bewley, always good to have your advice on all of this. Thanks for being with us. And more on the death of Fidel Castro next. I'm going to talk about the different political reactions from both sides of the aisle with GOPAC Chairman David Avella, and I'm going to get his take on today's decision by Hillary Clinton to join in the recount effort. Justice rolls on in a moment.